Learn smart, be wise. Learn with Sudeep Tech Learning. Press the red button to subscribe. Like the video, share the video with friends and family.
Hello everybody, welcome to the SSC Science chapter wise important topics. The part 3 of this series is out today, and in this part 3 we are going to discuss the half chapter of the metals and non-metals. So let's start with it. As the name suggests, metals and non-metals, this chapter is related to properties of metals, properties of non-metals, and in the later part we are going to discuss the occurrence, how they are occurring and how they can be extracted from earth. Okay, so let's start. The first thing, we need to know the properties of metals. Now what are the properties of metal? There are four main properties of metals. In fact there are six, but I would make it four main. The first thing is says that it is lustrous. Now, what is the meaning of lustrous? Lustrous means it has shine. Metals have shine. Okay, since they have a shiny luster on them, the first property suggests that they are lustrous. Okay, the second thing is they are malleable. What is the meaning of malleable? Being malleable means that they can be made into thin sheets. Okay, you can make thin sheets like this, thin sheets out of metal. So this is the property of being malleability. Next property is ductility, that metals are ductile. Ductile, what is ductile? Now ductile means that they can be made into thin wires. Okay, the property in which metals can be drawn into wires is called ductility. Okay, and they are called as ductile. And the fourth thing is they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Now you can actually split these points into two. You can say that they are good conductors of heat, and the next point you can say that they are good conductor of electricity. Now what does this mean? This means that they can conduct heat. Metals can conduct heat in themselves. It can pass through it, and also electricity can pass through them. Okay, these are four main points. Apart from this, there is one more point, that is they are sonorous in nature. What is the meaning of sonorous? The metals which produce sound on striking. Now all metals do not do, but some metals which are there which produce sound on striking on its hard surface are said to be sonorous. The example is a bell. Okay, now this question can come as a direct define sonorous. Okay, also I will tell you about this, that these four definitions can come separately as a question. Define luster, define malleability, define ductility, or it can also come as asking you the properties of metals. Okay, then this question can come as a give reason. It can say that a bell is used to produce sound, or it can also come like this: a bell is used to ring for a school. Why is it so? Because it is sonorous. It will produce a sound on striking. Since it is a metal, it will produce a sound on striking. Therefore a metallic bell is used. Okay, so this question can come. Next point that you have to know, that all metals except mercury are solids at room temperature. This is important point, that all metals are solid. Only one exception is there, that is mercury. This mercury which is there, it is existing as a liquid at room temperature. Then next point that we need to know is non-metals are either solids or gases. Now solids we know are the metals we know are solids, but all non-metals which are there, they are either solids or gases, except there is one, bromine, which is liquid at a room temperature. Now moving on, we can see iodine. Iodine is a non-metal, but it is lustrous. Now we have seen the property of metals, that metals are lustrous in nature, but there is exception for iodine, that iodine being a non-metal also, it is lustrous in nature. Then we have carbon, which is a non-metal. Carbon is a non-metal, but it can exist in different forms, and each form of it is called as an allotrope. Okay, so you have to know what is allotrope. This question can come, what is allotrope? And also you can come to give examples of allotropes of carbon. If this is asked to give example of allotrope of carbon, you can write diamond, you can write graphite. Okay, diamond and graphite are allotropes of carbon. Moving on to next, we have alkali metals. Alkali metals are so soft that they can be cut in half. Now these are the three alkali metals that you have to remember. Now the question can come here is, you can be asked is name the following to state any metal which can be cut into knife, or you can be also asked to specify any special property of sodium, potassium or lithium. Okay, the properties that they are so soft that they can be cut with a knife also. Okay, now these are some of the properties that you have to know. I would say metal plus oil, this we have already discussed in the second chapter. Okay, you can go to the I column there and you can check the second part. If you have not watched, you can also start with the first part. This is the entire series. Okay. Now this point you have to know, metal plus oxygen gives you metal oxide. Next is metals such as potassium and sodium react so vigorously that they catch fire when cut in open. Now as I told this, if you see, they are a very soft metal, they can be cut in knife, and they have also special property for sodium and potassium. Okay, sodium and potassiums are very reactive. They are so very reactive that they can catch fire if kept in open. So if you keep them just in open, they will immediately catch fire by reacting with oxygen. Now, hence to prevent them from accidental fires, they are kept immersed in kerosene oil. This you have to remember, that they are kept in kerosene oil. Okay. Now this question can come as a give reason type question, asking you why potassium or sodium are kept immersed in kerosene oil. The answer you have to give is pretty simple, that they are very reactive. First point, they are very reactive and they can catch fire if kept in open. So to prevent accident, they are kept in kerosene oil. Okay. Again, second thing that you have to know is metal plus water will give you metal oxide and hydrogen gas will be released there. Again, metal, when it reacts with dilute acid, it gives you a salt, and a hydrogen gas is again released in this case. Reactive metals can displace less reactive metals from compounds in solution or molten form. For this you have to know the reactivity series or the activity series that is there. A table of reactivity series is there in your NCERT textbook. Now, as I have already told in the first part, if you have not seen it, please watch the first part. I have already told that all this thing I am referring to all for the NCERT book. Okay, NCERT textbook you have to refer. All the state boards which are following NCERT, you all can follow this videos for it. Now for this I have told you have to refer for the activity series. Now I will just tell you reactive metals. Now reactive metals are at the lower side of the activity series. There is an activity series. At the lower side there are these reactive metals. Now these reactive metals which are there, they can displace the less reactive metals. I'll give you a simple example. Whenever somebody has more strength, obviously that person is going to attack the person with having low strength and he is going to win. So similarly what happens in this case is this more reactive metals which are there, they displace off. You have seen the displacement reaction again in chapter 1. Please refer to part 1 for it. They displace this less reactive metals from their compounds in solution or in molten form. So simple things, that more stronger things replaces the less stronger. Okay. Then next thing that you all have to know in this chapter is electronic configuration. Now here I am not going to discuss about all electronic configurations, but I would like to tell you all that as a student, now this again depends on a different kinds of state boards around the country. Now around the country, as of I know, most of the places for question paper, they give you all the atomic number. If you want to study the electronic configuration, they give you all atomic number during exam, but there are many state boards which do not give. So you have to know up till 18, the first 18 which are there elements, you have to know their atomic number. Okay. Now electronic configurations are helping you in determining the ionic compounds. Now you can be given a question to write to show the electronic configurations of, or the valence shell configurations of, say, magnesium, or any other the thing can be given to you and show, or maybe ionic compound formation you have to show. Okay, for that let's know what is ionic compound. The compounds formed by transfer of electrons from a metal, remember, see this, from a metal to a non-metal. So when electrons are getting transferred from a metal to a non-metal, this is known as ionic compounds or electrovalent compounds. This is another name for ionic compounds, that is the electrovalent compounds. Now this is pretty simple. I'll show you with this example. Now you can see this example. This is again from your textbook. You have this magnesium, and you see what is the atomic number of magnesium? It is 12. Now you know this electronic configuration that you know. In the first shell it takes 2 electrons, the second shell it takes 8 electrons. Okay, now see here, you can see the 2 electrons are already occupied, 8 electrons are already occupied. Okay, now remaining 8 plus 2 is 10, the total number is 12, 2 is remaining here, so we'll keep it here. Okay, now this here Mg2 plus, this is a cation. What is the meaning of cation now? Cation is something which has less electrons in it. Okay, see, you have 2 plus is given, so it is deficient in 2 electrons. Okay, now 2,8, this is deficient in 2 electrons. These 2 electrons are shown here, see, plus 2 electrons, so these 2 electrons are kept separate here. So this is the entire magnesium is excess in 2 electrons, so this cation is there which is having 2 electrons less. Okay, these 2 electrons are shown here. Now we have Cl. We are showing the combination of Mg and Cl. Cl, what is the atomic number? Atomic number is 17. Okay, 8 plus 2 is 10, the valence shell, and here you have 7. So what you need is the third thing, that is 8. Next thing is 8. So next shell to fill you need 8, and here only 1. After, if you add just 1 electron, you can have a complete octet state. Okay, for that, see here what is this one here, it is a complete octet state. But in this chlorine, this is an anion. Anion is having what? There is an extra 1 electron in chlorine. Now just show this here, this is magnesium with having 2 extra electrons in it, and here if you see chlorine, it has 7. This also, this has 7, and this also has 7 in it. So this 1 electron goes here, the second electron goes here. Okay, and this combines to form MgCl2. So 2 chlorine gets attached to this magnesium to form MgCl2. Okay, now I've just told you all this in very brief. If you all are having a confusion in this and want to know, you all, please let me know in the comment box. I will make a separate special video on this. Okay, I hope you all have understood this part. The main thing I want to tell you in this, that is a ionic compounds, that this is a, see, magnesium is a metal and this is a non-metal. So from when electrons from a metal gets transferred to a non-metal, okay, these are called ionic compounds. This is what you have to know. And okay, and a question can come to show this type of relation. Okay, let's move to the next part. Next thing that you have to know is properties of ionic compounds. Now this ionic compound has very special properties. First thing we'll see about the physical nature. Ionic compounds are solids. Okay, so this is the one point. Ionic compounds are solid and somewhat hard. Okay, they are hard in nature. The reason for this is that they have a strong force of attraction between positive and negative ions. Now what are these positive and negative ions? There is a cation and there is an anion. Cation is a positively charged and anion is a negatively charged. Okay, so we already know that when positive and negative things come together, they show attraction. Okay, they show attraction. Because there is attraction, they are very close to each other, and since they are close to each other, they become hard and they are solid. So a question can come as a give reason, asking you why ionic compounds are solid or why they are hard. And the answer will be because of the strong force of attraction between positive and negative ions. These compounds are generally brittle. Okay, now let me show you this. These compounds which are there, they are brittle in nature. What is brittle in nature? Brittle means whenever if you have a cake piece, okay, say you have this cake piece, and if you cut it here, it will give you a clear cut. But when something is a brittle, say like a glass, when you break it, it will break as it wants, not in a perfect shape. It will break as it wants. That is called as a brittle. Okay, means when you break it, it will break into pieces. Okay, so this is the definition of this. So physical nature, second part, that ionic compounds are brittle and they break into pieces when pressure is applied on them. Second property is melting and boiling point. Let's see how this is affected. ionic compounds have high melting points and boiling points. Okay, again the melting point and boiling point is very high. There is a reason for it, and the reason is again the same reason for the first part which you have seen, that considerable amount of energy is required to break the strong interionic attraction. Again, as I told, there is a positive ion, there is a negative ion. So these are positive and negative are attracting towards them, and they are very closely packed. Okay, so if you want to break, what is melting or what is boiling point? Melting means you are breaking it, you are making it spread. Okay, that solid which is there, when you're melting it, you're making it spread, and you're actually breaking the attraction force of it. Okay, so since there are strong interionic attraction, the more amount of energy required, therefore the melting and boiling point is very high. Okay, as simple as that. Next thing is solubility. Solubility property, if you see, electrovalent compounds are generally soluble in water and insoluble in solvents such as kerosene. Okay, now this compound, electrovalent compound, again same word for ionic compound. They are generally soluble in water. Okay, they are soluble in water, but they are not soluble in solvents like kerosene and petrol. Fourth part is conduction of electricity. Ionic compounds in solid state which are there, they do not conduct electricity. Now, again, the reason for this is simple. The same reason is applying again and again. You have to just know that ionic compounds are made with two oppositely charged elements, that is cation and anion. Okay, and since they are oppositely charged, they are very attractive, and their interionic forces are very high. Okay, so they are rigid in nature. So because they are rigid structure, they cannot conduct electricity because there is no movements of ions are very stable, they are at one place, they cannot move, therefore electricity cannot pass through them. Okay, so this is when they are in the solid state. But if it is possible in the molten state, if the same ionic compounds are kept in a molten state, then since the electronic forces of attraction oppositely charge is overcome due to heat, then due to heat, what will happen is that electrostatic forces of attraction which is there between these oppositely charged ions, that will be overcome, and there will be movement of ions, and when there is movement of ion, obviously there will be conduction of electricity. Now this is important point you have to know. Whenever any question comes for conduction of electricity, if there is movement of ions, remember there will always be conduction of electricity. Okay, thus the ions move freely and conduct electricity. This is the same thing which I do. Okay, so this is all we had from this part. This chapter is not yet over. The next part, that is extraction and the properties of the metals, which properties of metals are still left. Okay, how they are occurring and how we can extract them, that we will see in the next section. In the part 4, it will be wait for it, it will be coming soon. Okay, then until then, learn smart and be wise. Okay, all the best, maybe whenever you are watching this, but my all the best to you. And if you are happy with this video, please put a like on it, share this with all your friends so that they can also get benefit of it. Any doubts you'll have, you can comment on it. And finally, subscribe to Sudeep Tech Learning for more educative and technical related videos. Thanks a lot.